Welcome to the Daily Insider here on Vegas Insider. I am Kevin Rogers. Final day of February, Monday, February 28th, 2022. March right around the corner. And got plenty of basketball to talk about. James Harden now with the Sixers. They're 2-0 since he joined them. Free throw fest in their win over the Knicks yesterday at Madison Square Garden. Also college basketball, the big story. Of course, all the upsets on Saturday. All of the top 10 teams that lost, including Gonzaga. They fell to St. Mary's. So a lot to discuss over the next little bit. Dave Sharapan is going to join us. And he normally joins us every Monday during football, but he's going to join us now during basketball, too. That's what we do with Dave. But before we get to Dave, I want to tell you about the Sports Illustrated Sportsbook. You can find them online at sisportsbook.com. Now, this is only for players in Colorado. New players get up to $300 in free bets when you sign up, make a bet of $10 or more, and receive a $10 free bet up to 30 times. Again, new players only must be 21 years or older and located in Colorado. Promo code ROAD300. Full terms and conditions apply. That is the Sports Illustrated Sportsbook. Check them out at sisportsbook.com. All right, let's bring on our man, Dave Sharapan. Good to see you, Dave.
What's up, Kev? I'm excited to be here. I mean, it's not football season, and we're talking, so that's good. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of things happening, which is why this business and us talking is a good thing, because I can't wait to see what you're going to ask me about.
Well, I would start with Derek Jeter stepping down with the Marlins, but we'll wait on that one. You know, Derek Jeter breaking up with someone else. He's done that a lot during his life. So
I hadn't even heard that yet.
He stepped down as CEO of the Marlins.
Wow.
He couldn't even make it until baseball had their official cancellation at the start of the season.
Man, oh man, oh man. There must be so much going on internally with baseball and just certain teams and certain things. I mean, did he just build a castle down there? Is he going to do what is going on?
He had enough of it. And you know what? A lot of people would say, well, you know, they went to the playoffs a few years ago. They went to the playoffs like a 30-30 team in a 60-game season. Everyone made the playoffs. So let's not throw him a parade for that either.
This is true.
Like, let's calm down on that one.
You're absolutely right. I think everything that we saw, even this expanded playoff and all these other things, we kind of have to dismiss from that whole season. Like, there's nothing. I don't think you can take anything from any of that. The numbers, the games, what we saw, it's got to be done. I mean, man, today's this self-imposed deadline, and all I could see this morning on my social media feed was, don't pay for MLB TV because they charge you the full subscriptions today or something. So any auto renewal, don't pay it today, because apparently they're not going to have a full season. So frustration beyond belief for baseball fans everywhere.
Well, one more baseball. Forgets the basketball. You're a big baseball guy.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Two things. One, I'm going to back off from the MLB TV because 2 years ago I had it. And then what they did was they said, because the shortened season will either prorate you this year or next year, 2021. Oh. And I said, if you're prorating, it's like $50 for the whole season. Forget it. They're going to play a whole season. I'm going to do it. So I paid like $50 the next year for it. So okay. I'm just going to pay it and hope that it works. So secondly, do you think they get a deal done today?
I mean, everything that I've heard and read up to this point is the answer is no. I mean, what have they been doing in these talks? They're not even close. There's so many things, and like people that I really respect that write about it are beyond discouraged. So, I mean, selfishly, I hope they do. You know, I want to see the full season, and believe me, I don't know what's going to make up for it as far as us and like content business now, but like the sportsbook business, April and even into May, baseball has a lot of steam and a lot of volume, and it gives us daily content to talk about. And it gives the books daily churn and handle. And it's great because April and May is very unpredictable. I mean, do you think the books were crying last year as the Giants were winning every game and as they were dogs a lot of times, and all they did was end up going to win on 106 games or something. So I really, really am trying to remain optimistic because I'm just that type of nature guy. I don't think they get a deal done today.
Dave, how does it work in the books as far as baseball goes from the standpoint of, you mentioned April and May, there's some steam there. April and May, you're going against the NBA playoffs, the NHL playoffs. You have meaningful games. So, first 2 months of the regular season, people are excited about because we get to July and it's dead. That's the only thing going on. But yet, I feel like people don't care when that's the only game in town.
Everything has the initial rush of the season. Like when football, NFL preseason comes back, they bet the first week of it, even maybe the second week, and then it dies off. When baseball starts, the anticipation of pitchers and catchers reporting, it being cold everywhere, then spring training games start, and you put lines up on those, just side and total, but you don't really see a lot of action on that stuff. When April starts, even against the NBA and NHL playoffs, you get this boom, you get this rush, and they start to come in and start to come in, and it just creates the routine. But by May, summer vacations start, kids are out of school, people are going to games, maybe not so much betting on games. Like, so the volume dips a little bit, but then it comes back, and like true baseball bettors, the professionals, they do the grind. They only take off All-Star game week. That whole week they take off. That was my week historically. Take the kids to the beach, do something. Um, the steam does wear off because of the sheer volume of games. And the playoff games, the handle increases as like you get closer to the end of the NBA finals because the games are so separate, because there's so much hype and build up. You do a ton of volume on those games individually. It's nothing like the baseball volume, though. As far as the amount is bigger on the NBA finals, yes. Even the Stanley Cup finals, depending on who's in it, will do a lot of more handle on those individual games. But people love to bet the Yankees every day. I mean, they come in and bet the Dodgers every single day. And when a good pitcher pitches, everybody parlays them together. I think baseball it'd be bad for everybody if baseball don't start on time.
Well, hopefully they figure it out somehow today. And then, they said they're going to cancel games, not postpone them, but cancel them
Yeah.
if they keep. But again, what if you get this figured out in a week? We're making it out to be that's going to take 3 more months. I don't know how these negotiations are working, but you hope that if it doesn't work out today, maybe in a week they figure it out. It's just very hard as a fan, and both of us are baseball fans, and we've stuck it out all this time to say these little nuances like a pass and these other guys write on Twitter, like they've gone through these all these years. Like, what's changing now?
Right. I agree. When you read this stuff and you talk about it, you're like, are we seriously discussing this now? Like this is going to hold up this season? You guys have waited this long. And I understand the distrust. I mean, for years there was this, and there still is obviously a bit of a contentious relationship. It's people with a lot of money, trying to have this worker owner mentality. I mean, it is what it is. That's why the union is who it is. That's why the owners have dug in their heels. Figure it out. It's an institution for a lot of people. It's a sport that people love going to the games, trying to plan, a trip around. The All-Star game is in LA. LA ain't that far. I just was there this weekend. It was in Palm Springs, but I can drive there, trying to plan my whole summer around that trip, trying to get the kids to an All-Star game for the first time. I don't know if it's going to be a game or not.
Well, I certainly hope that they somewhat figure it out and they lose as little games as possible going in, but we'll see. Let's transition now, Dave. We'll get to the college basketball updates in a minute, but you're wearing your Sixers hat today.
Yep.
You're not wearing it for Andrew Toney or Maurice Cheeks or Mark Ivoroni or Earl Puritan.
Oh my goodness!
Can I tell you a quick story? But can I tell you a quick story before we get to this? I think you'll like this.
Do.
Okay, so when I was, I don't know, 10 or 11 maybe, they had at a Specs at Sawgrass Mills Mall, the big outlet mall in Fort Lauderdale, they had a specs like a $5 bin VCR or VHS tapes. Okay, they had a 1983. I think you're the only person that would appreciate the story. 1983 video, that championship feeling. Dick Stockton narrating it over the Philadelphia 76ers with Dr. J. They finally got over the hump and won their first title, sweeping the Lakers. I love that video.
Oh my God, I've never seen it. I'm gonna have to find this right now as
you have
I'm
to
writing
YouTube
this
that
down.
one. Yeah,
83 highlight.
Feeling, the story of the 83
Oh,
76ers.
Goodness. I guess I know what I'm doing tonight. I'll be all over that watching that. Those highlight videos. Listen, first of all, you mentioned VCR tapes. People don't even know what VCR stands for, Kevin. The ones watching these videos, you had to actually get a hard tape and stick it in this big machine and hit play. And if you were really ahead of the game, you had a remote control. Otherwise, you had to get up or there was a wired remote control to hit play. And you had to watch these things on tape. I still have VHS tapes and I have a player that works. So that's 83, 80. That I fell in love with that team. Listen, Dr. J was my guy originally because he was Moses Guthrie in the Fish That Saved Pittsburgh. The Pittsburgh Pisces were my basketball team. That was a movie that if you can find that VHS tape, you should watch it. If you don't, go watch the clip on YouTube. Google Fish That Saved Pittsburgh trailer. It's 3 minutes of absolute gold. I mean, Moses Guthrie, Dr. J was my guy. Then I got to meet him at 9 years old at the Lynn Swan roast in Pittsburgh. And he shook my hand and it engulfed my entire arm. I was 9 years old and I was like, oh my goodness. So Dr. J walked on water for me. And then they could never beat the Celtics. They just couldn't do it. And they finally did in 83. Kevin, who did they beat in the finals? I can't even remember.
Lakers.
Of course they beat the Lakers because that was the only other team that won the championships. Lakers and Celtics. You threw the Sixers in. Kevin, someday, hopefully I can find it. I know my mom saved it. I had a full top and bottom Sixers snap-off pants warm-up that I used to wear an entire year after that 1983-84 season. Top and bottom snaps. I wasn't even good at basketball, but I wanted to be that guy. Andrew Toney hit all them shots. Mo Cheeks dished the ball to everybody. You name all the bench guys. No one else even knows who they were. That was an unbelievable year. I mean, you got me all excited. Now I'm fired up.
Now, let's see if the 76ers, today's 76ers, can replicate what that team did. We'll see. They beat the Knicks yesterday, Dave. I want your opinion on this. So Joel Embiid is 24 of 27 from the line. Harden was 10 of 10 from the line. They're 2-0 since Harden came. But my goodness, how do you sustain this 34 of 37 between two guys at the free throw line?
You don't, but they can still get to the free throw line, which is kind of a lost art right now, isn't it? Like the game has changed so much so quickly. You have people looking to go to the basket to kick it out to shoot threes. They're looking to go to the basket to get fouled and score from the free throw line. So 2 is still not more than 3, Kevin. Numbers matter. And the game has changed, but these two are playing old school basketball. Joel finally has a running partner that is happy to be there, will dish him the ball, and when they double, triple team him and he don't get to the free throw line, he can throw back and he can hit it. I think Harden makes the whole team better. I mean, between Thibault and, Tobias Harris. And, I mean, Maxey is legit a third part of a 3-part wheel, I guess, that everybody wants to make the formula to win. You need 3, apparently, not just making threes. You need 3 guys. Well, they got the MVP. I think Joel Embiid is the MVP of the league. He's the odds-on favorite to win it. And now he has help. Man, I'm excited. I think a run can be had, but the Eastern Conference is going to be an absolute minefield getting there. The books won't move the odds on the Nets, Kev. I mean, until I see what everybody keeps telling me is going to be the best team. It's going to be the best team. Their adjusted season win total is 44, 43. That's going to be good enough for what? 5th, 6th? They're going to be on the road every series. I don't know. By then, the mask mandate might be lifted, and Kyrie will get to play at home. They're going to fix it so he can somehow. Until I see it, it's the Sixers, the Bucks. I mean, the teams ahead of them, Miami Heat, right there. They're the number 1 seed right now. Nobody's giving them any credit. The Bulls, right there. There's so much going on in the East. I mean, tonight we get to see it. Chicago plays at Miami. Miami's a 4-point favorite. It's going to be a good basketball game. What is it going to tell us? I think it's going to tell us two of them better win a lot of these games, because I think the Sixers are going to win a lot of games down the stretch.
Going back to the Nets for a second, Dave, is this just the assumption that New York is going to eventually lift the vaccine mandate? Kyrie's going to be able to play more. And then, I mean, who knows when Durant? I mean, Kyrie can play all the home games. If Durant's not playing, who cares? You need Durant back, because Kyrie can only carry it so much. No Harden anymore. Who knows when Ben Simmons is going to play? And he still has to get acclimated. I feel like he needs to get more acclimated than like Harden does in Philadelphia. Harden, you just plug in and he's going to get a triple-double every night. Where I don't know if this is the same case with Simmons without that top scorer. Kyrie is excellent. You still need like a guy like Durant in there to help you be a team to beat in the East.
I think so. Like, they keep talking about throwing them all together without really a ramp-up period. They better all get together. There's 20 games left. They better play at least 10 to 15 of them together before the playoffs. If they try to do this just for the playoffs, I don't think they have a shot. Basketball is still a team game. It's played individually by a lot of guys. And as we can see in LA for the Lakers, like, you could be having great individual statistics. You can't win basketball games doing it in the playoffs, especially. You can carry Moses Malone carried that 76ers team. They were a team, though. This isn't a team. And obviously Durant is the one that's going to make them all go. But, I mean, Simmons took all this time off. He couldn't handle the Boo Birds in Philly. What does he think is going to happen in Brooklyn? What does he think is going to happen in New York when he don't play well or he don't take that shot? At least on this team, he won't have to, because between Kyrie, obviously Durant, Seth Curry makes them that's a good addition for them. They're going to have alternatives there, and all he has to do is play defense and dish the ball. Okay. Until I see it, though, I would be going to get some Brooklyn money right now. But again, maybe that's why I'm not in a book managing risk, and I'm talking about it on shows all over the place now. I don't know. I don't think that this lofty price on Brooklyn is warranted right now.
Do you have faith in the Heat to go far? Assuming that they are healthy with Butler, with Bam, Tyler Hero, and if Lowry gets it together. Right now, 40-21, a game ahead of the Bulls. You mentioned they're playing tonight in Miami, a few games ahead of Philly. Milwaukee and Boston are still within striking range. But do you have faith in Miami going pretty far in the East?
So, like, to take what we said about baseball in the bubble or that season and throwing it out, I can't get out of my head what they did there and getting to that final and seeing Jimmy Butler. They were excellent. I thought, wow, this team is together. This team is well coached. This is all still applies today. I think people are totally kind of overlooking them because they're not maybe the center of a lot of shows or a lot of things. I don't know what to expect from them, Kev. I really, really don't. But I'm not saying they can't get there. I'm just saying for being the number 1 seed and then being the 3rd or 4th choice odds-wise, I get it. It makes sense to me. I'm not saying it's going to happen and they're going to be a second-round exit. I think if they have the right matchups, they can probably get to the Eastern Conference Finals. And it would be totally out of the realm to see them in the NBA championship. I just don't know if they can beat 4 teams, four games, out of 7 all the way to the championship.
You mentioned the Lakers before, and I'm sorry, that one of the best highlights of the season was DeAndre Jordan, point guard DeAndre Jordan, taking the ball up the court with the graphic on the screen of them trailing the Pelicans last night by 28 points and him lofting the ball into the stands. That was probably the highlight of the Lakers season last night. Are they making the playoffs? Like they'll be in the play-in because you have so much garbage at the bottom of the West, but can they even get through the play-in game?
I don't think so. I swear, if there's books where you can bet will they make the playoffs or not, and that means one of the 8, I'd bet the no right now. The team is done. It looks like a disaster. And I mean, LeBron is still being LeBron as far as on the court. I mean, he's getting 32 points last night. They lose by 28 points. And I mean, for years and years and years, I've sat in books in Vegas and had Laker fans come and tell me how good the Lakers were and this and that. And same thing happened this year. I mean, there were people that were coming in and betting the Lakers for big money. I posted my thing on Twitter this morning. I was thinking of a guy. I went back and found the tweet. He came in August and bet 28K on them to win it all, so he could win exactly 100,000. And I thought at the time, man, this guy's punishing himself. That comes to almost 300 a game, $297.60 a game. If you bet that amount, 28, 571, 45, I think his bet was on the Lakers to win a championship. And they gave him, is that 7-2 odds, 3.5-1? And I thought, man, stays in the book. I wish I was taking this stuff myself, and that would be one of them. Like the Lakers aren't winning. They're not even making the playoffs now, Kevin. It's going to be a complete disaster. And he's talking about he's going to play his last year with Bronny, his kid. Where's he going to do that at? I don't know if the Lakers want him. He's talking, oh, we can come back to Cleveland. Cleveland's like, we're good. We're fine. We don't need you here either. So it's a mess. But yeah, I got home last night from Palm Springs, and I actually turned the game on. I didn't see that graphic, but I saw them down 25 and just started laughing to myself, going, "Oh my goodness, how far the mighty have fallen."
Isn't it funny though how LeBron and Kyrie are in delicate situations to say the least, and the one guy still standing in Cleveland's Kevin Love.
It's fantastic, isn't it? It is fantastic. And when you watch Cleveland play, oh man. Talk about a team. Talk about like basketball is such a beautiful sport when it's played well. And I enjoy it. I mean, I got thrown into it having to book it, and I really appreciate it because I love to watch it and make in-game bets and see different things and turns. Yeah, it is pretty ironic that Kevin Love looked like, man, he was going to be the first one out. Remember? They were trying to get him out back in the day. Oh, we're going to trade Love. We're going to trade Love and leave those two together. And now he's wearing those throwback unis, which I love. I love those. World Be Free. I think of all these things back in the day. Mark Price, Brad Daugherty, NBA Jam, the Cavs. They may get their justice. I don't think they can win it all, but they're going to be a hard out coming to playoffs.
Yeah, they've made a lot of improvements. Want to look at some college basketball on Saturday. Gonzaga loses to St. Mary's. And you had a bunch of upsets. Let's see. Gonzaga, Arizona, Kentucky, Auburn, Kansas, Texas Tech, Purdue, all lost. Of course, the one top 10 team that wins and rolls is Duke. Thanks, Kay. But Gonzaga, first with them. I know the WCC is much improved. Any concern here, or just a clunker by Mark Few's team?
I mean, if anything, it just shows that they can lose. And I think, we saw that. I saw them in person here lose to Duke, aforementioned Duke, in Vegas early in the season. They have a bad shooting night, and the other team shoots well, keeps them off the boards for second chances between Timmy and Holmgren. I mean, my goodness, I don't know how you beat them, but it's just a reminder that the college basketball is a one-game playoff 6 times in a row. I think there's definitely cause for concern. I mean, they're the odds-on favorite, but I don't feel like they're the overwhelming choice. They could lose before the Final Four, and if I'm betting on a team at like 6-1 or 7-1 to win the whole thing, I want to know that I think they're going to be in the Final Four. I don't know that with Gonzaga.
Now, as far as the other ones, like Kentucky losing to Arkansas. Arkansas is a quality team. That's not an upset per se, but how about that three-pointer at the buzzer, though? And Kentucky got the cover of the push.
Unbelievable. I saw the highlights and thought, oh my goodness, what was the line? I checked the line. I'm like, oh, that one had to swing some money some way. It was like, oh man, did that really just happen? Okay. Those things happen in March, man. But they happen all season. And now, like doing this stuff, we see it more and more. But yes, that's funny. I thought the same thing. We were all doing this in different places.
Everyone's looking at me like, oh, this had to mean something. This ridiculous 3 that meant nothing. If you're Kentucky, 'cause you're down 5.
Yep.
All right. So Auburn, that's another one. Auburn loses to Tennessee. Tennessee's a good team. Kansas
Tennessee
loses
was
to Baylor.
favored. Yeah, Tennessee was favored, I think, in the game. Or might have swung. I don't remember with the line close, but no, they're not all upsets. They weren't all dogs. I mean, as far as numbers go, there was 2 favorites in there. It's great. It's great for March Madness. It's great leading up to conference tournament weeks. It creates a little more uncertainty. It creates more action. Now you bring more teams into the mix when you thought maybe 2, 3, 4 teams could win it. Now you'll hear everybody talking about it for this whole week. 10, 12 teams. How many teams can actually win the NCAA tournament? It's great for the product. It's great for basketball. It just reminds me again, Kev, winning on the road in college basketball may be the hardest thing to do in sports.
Do you enjoy the making lines for the conference tournaments? I know it's kind of a pain because these games get done late and all these are back-to-back games. Like once you get to the major tournaments, I know that the smaller tournaments are starting. Once you get to next week and so much chaos, did you enjoy that? Or was that just a lot trying to make lines for all these games with like quick knockouts every single day?
I loved it. I didn't like it. I loved it. Only because I knew it was coming. The first time I got to experience March Madness in the book was writing tickets. And I was at the Golden Nugget downtown. And they were like, all right, listen, you're going to have to work 12 hours, the first 3 days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And I was like, all right, when I was offshore, I used to work 16 hours. They're like, they almost had to clear it like I'd be able to do it. I was like, yeah, I'll be fine. So walked into a ballroom at 5 o'clock in the morning to a standing ovation. There were people waiting to get in because they had reserved their seats. And it was a room dedicated to March Madness. It was a viewing party. It was fantastic. And I was like, what is going on? Why are these people? They had to wait outside. It was first come, first serve. So they were sleeping in the hallway waiting to get in, like taking naps. And they were there the night before. It was people from all over the country that made it their trip. And now I used to do this after I left Curacao and moved back to Pittsburgh. I moved to Phoenix. And we made it an annual trip to come to March Madness, but we did it the second weekend because everybody told me how busy the first weekend was. So in the book, that first day, I worked I got there 5 o'clock in the morning, walked in, set up the window. There was only 2 windows in this room. I can't even begin to tell you how many tickets I wrote, how much action we had, how much money I had in the drawer at one point. I didn't leave until the last game went to halftime. That was guaranteed 12 to 14 hours every single day. So then when you got to the risk room, you just knew what it was. And it was that exactly. And now you're making the numbers and now you have the app. So it's instantaneous. You're taking bets constantly. I loved every second of it.
Because sometimes I feel like that week is more fun than the tournament. And I know that I'm probably the minority on that one because you just have so many games where you only have like now 2 or 3 games at once. That first 2 days, you get to Saturday and Sunday, all of a sudden now you've cut the field in half. You don't have as many games. And obviously Sweet 16, it's like 1 game or you have 2 games at once and they break it up, throughout the country. But you only have like really 2 days of wall-to-wall basketball in the tournament where really from Monday or maybe Tuesday to Friday, it's wall-to-wall in the conference tournaments.
Conference tournament week's harder. I mean, it's just you don't have as many people per se in town like in the books here in Vegas, but conference tourney week is way harder. There's just because of the sheer volume of games, the time of games all over the place. It is, morning in West Coast time until late in West Coast time. I mean, like the West Coast conference games with Gonzaga, and now them losing is perfect for that because I'll probably take the kids down. We'll go to the game. We did every year for a while. It's a lot of fun. You got to be a basketball fan to really like it, though. Like the guys that aren't so much, They're annoyed by it. It's hard to come up with the numbers as far as like totals on neutral court are different than on totals on home courts. So now you're like, where is this game? How many is there going to be any sort of home court advantage? Is there going to be any sort of number? What was the number in the regular season? Home and away. Now you have to adjust it for a neutral. There's a lot that goes into it, but man, it's fun. It's believe me, you have to enjoy it because what's coming is April. You get playoff baseball or you get playoff basketball and NBA, playoff hockey, all fun. But if there's no baseball, you better enjoy this March because it's going to be a long, long summer in the book.
Well, the only good news is that hockey now is extended towards the end of April, the regular season, and the playoffs won't start till May. So
that's going to have Stanley Cup finals in July. It can't extend that long, can it?
Last regular season game or last weekend's like April 28th or something. Because remember, the Olympics, they backed all that up.
Oh, my goodness. What if Florida is actually in the Stanley Cup final, Kevin? How are they going to keep the ice is going to be a disaster.
It's going to be an outdoor game, rollerblading.
We'll bet the over if that's the case. The Panthers go over. They score goals as good as anybody in the league. We might have to take that thing outdoors. Can you imagine physically hitting each other? I actually tried out for a professional roller hockey league back in the day, and it was the first time it was full-on hitting. There were 6 fights at the tryout. I mean, I know guys were trying to like make an impression, but there were 6 fights in the tryout. Incredible.
I understand there's still a long way to go, but the Panthers have lost 3 in a row. They've kind of hit the wall a little bit. So, and you know what? They played Edmonton on Saturday. Draisaitl had a goal. McDavid had a few assists, but this other guy, Derek Ryan, gets a hat trick. When Derek Ryan's beating you with 3 goals, you know, you really got to back up and go back to the drawing board.
It still comes down to that goaltender, right? Like, as good as teams are in a regular season, as good as they score and stuff, like, I mean, you know, we always go back to what we know. And, like, I got to watch the Penguins win Stanley Cups, and the Penguins had Mario Lemieux, amazing. He turned Robbie Brown into a goal scorer, Kevin Stevens, all that. Until they got Barrasso, they weren't winning the Stanley Cup. You still got to have a goalie that's going to win you a game or 2 in the playoffs. I'm not sure that might still be the Achilles heel for the Florida Panthers.
Well, my last time, and I'll let you go, my favorite Tom Barrasso memory is when the Penguins played the Panthers in the 96 conference final, and the Rats and Barrasso would like hide in the net for cover when all the Rats would come on the ice.
That was an incredible run that you guys had down there. And again, I don't know if we're old or we're just really well versed on all this stuff. I remember that like it was yesterday. That was the year before I left for Curacao. And I was like, what is this Rats thing? And why are they doing it? And then when I heard the story, I was like, hey, that's pretty cool. And then after the Panthers beat the Penguins, I was like, okay, I'm rooting for this team. Let's get this thing done. And they didn't get it done. If the Panthers win the Stanley Cup, what will that parade be like down there, Kev?
Here's the problem. I think it would be good. The problem with the Panthers is they're more of a Broward County team, and the Heat are more of a Dade County team because of where the Panthers play, and them competing in a sense with the Heat for as good as the Heat are. I think it's going to be hard to take the attention away because of what the Heat have been when they had LeBron and Wade and Bosh and all those years, that the Heat are still above the Panthers. And by the way, for those people that don't know, Scott Mellenby, who was with the Panthers back then, there was a rat the first game of the season against Calgary, I think before or after the game, in the locker room, and he killed it. Like, that was like the rallying cry, the year of the rat. So that's why they threw the Rats on the ice. They played Colorado in the Stanley Cup final. They ran out of gas when they played the Avalanche. That was such an excellent that was Joe Sakic, Peter Forsberg, Patrick Waugh. It was a crazy team. Yeah. They just ran out of gas against that team.
Well, I mean, the Stanley Cup, I think, is still the hardest trophy in sports to win. It is such a grind, and you have to stay healthy, and you have to have a goalie, and you have to have 3 lines. You have to have a checking line that can shut down the other line when you need to. You have it's literally almost like a full regular season packed into every other night for a month and a half to 2 months. So running out of steam. Yes. I seen it for years. And what's going on in the NHL now? I mean, you want to talk about odds, teams to win it. I had the Lightning the last couple of years to win it all. I'm still sold on the Lightning winning it all. Like
Fine.
they're so good. They're so deep. They have the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man in net. I don't know. Vasilevsky's pads look bigger every single time I see him. I'm thinking if I ever get to see him on ice level, what part of the net can you see when you're in the slot? You can't see anything. He's so big. They got to do something about these pads. But the Lightning still look like that team to beat, at least in the East. The West is all over the place. Until Colorado does it, they are the best team in a regular season. I don't know if they can do it in the playoffs. We haven't seen it.
Yeah, the West, everyone thinks it's Colorado and everyone else.
Yeah.
Again, like you said, let's see what the Avs can do if they can get through a few rounds. Past that, I'm not really sure if Calgary, if they peaked or what, if Vegas can make a run. I guess they got to get healthy, but there's a lot there. It just takes Colorado to have one bad series, and who knows who comes out of that conference.
We've seen 8 seeds win the Stanley Cup. All they need to do, literally, you hear, we just want to get in the tournament or tournament, however you say it. We just got to get in. Hockey shows you an 8 seed can actually win. They were the most competitive opening round playoff like series prices. You might have, a 1 seed favor over an 8 seed, minus 130, minus 140, depending on the matchup or the goalie or the way they were playing. Like, look at the 1 versus 8 in the NBA for years. It was minus 2,500, minus 3,500. They had no shot. It was just spacing out the first round for 2 weeks like the NBA does. And the NHL is doing that grind every other night. You're playing every other night. Yes, we know you're traveling from Vancouver to Dallas or whatever it is. You're playing every other night. And as long as the Hockey Night in Canada people were happy with what they got on Saturday night, everything was good. Action was consistent. Sometimes the NBA could take lessons from that because they played a first round game on Wednesday. They don't play again until Sunday because that's the day of the triple header or the quadruple header of the NBA playoffs. Forget what the series are by then.
Dave Sharapan, you can find him on Twitter, SportsBKConsig. Always great talking to Dave, and still a fun time of year. We had a little break in between the Super Bowl ending and college basketball and NBA, but now we're going to ramp it up because tomorrow is March. Just like a guy who I'm not a huge fan of, but I'll reference him anyway, a guy like John Rothstein. This period is March period. That's coming tomorrow. He's kind of a ham. That's why I like his knowledge, but he's kind of a ham. And I'm like, okay, enough already.
For sure. I always used to say, beware the Ides of March in the sports book. That's, another little reference that I'm not sure. Maybe a little bit above some people, but March is a very fun time for sports books, for sports in general. It gives us a lot to talk about. Listen, man, if there ain't going to be no baseball, I'm all in with this college softball. I just went and saw some major Division I programs. Oklahoma went 5-0 on the weekend. These pitchers throw so hard. And when you see 70 up close from 45 feet, It looks like Randy Johnson throwing 100. It was so much fun. There's a lot to talk about for sure in the book. Thanks, Kev.
Well, Dave, thanks, and we'll talk to you again soon, okay?
Yes, sir. Take it easy.
All right, Dave Sharapan. You can find him on Twitter, SportsBKConsig, and always love talking to Dave. Could talk to him for hours. But yeah, so much going on right now, and let's look at some NBA for tonight. Very loaded card. We'll begin with the early games. Magic and the Pacers tonight. They meet up in Orlando, and here's a number for the Pacers coming off that win over the Celtics yesterday. They give the Pacers credit. They really took it to Boston, scoring 128 on them, 128-107 win, 9.5-point underdogs. Now they go to Orlando, who they lost to earlier this month at home. Pacers 1-8 their last 9 off a win. Magic, meanwhile, they've won their last 3 in the role of a favorite, covered all 3 of them, if that means much. They beat Houston back on Friday, 119-111. And Markelle Fultz supposed to be back tonight. Not that he's going to be any kind of crazy difference maker, but he's just another contributor for that Magic team, former number 1 pick. He's kind of bounced around, but he should be back tonight after the torn ACL that he suffered last season. The Timberwolves and the Cavaliers, two of the biggest surprises in the NBA. Minnesota 32-29, Cleveland 36-24. Timberwolves favored here on the road this evening, and Minnesota off a 31-point loss to Philadelphia on Friday. That was James Harden's debut with the Sixers. Minnesota, a little up and down of late. They are just 3-4 their last 7. Cleveland snapped a 3-game slide. They beat Washington at home 92-86. Another under for the Cavs at home. I want to go over this stat really quickly. Sorry, I'm a little under the weather. That's why I keep scratching my nose. So the Cavaliers in their last few home games, what they've allowed: 86 to Washington, 92 to San Antonio, 85 to Indiana, 90 to New Orleans, 99 to Milwaukee, 93 to New York, 87 to Oklahoma City. So that is 7 straight games allowing less than 100 at home. Minnesota can score a bunch. Let's just see if that trend continues. What's happened to the Raptors? They were playing very well before the All-Star break, and then the All-Star break was probably the worst thing that could have happened to them. Actually, let me rephrase that. They had dropped 2 of 3 before the All-Star break. They were playing well. Then they got blown out in New Orleans. They won at Minnesota, but the 2 losses coming out of the break, by 32 at Charlotte, by 27 at Atlanta, just 2 horrible losses for the Raptors. They've lost twice to the Nets this season. Brooklyn off a 126-123 win at Milwaukee on Saturday. And Kyrie still can't play at home. We know it's going to be lifted soon. That's what they've said in New York. Kyrie had 38 against the Bucks. But Andre Drummond, 17. Seth Curry had 19. So you see those pickups in place of James Harden, and who knows when Ben Simmons is coming back. But Raptors laying points on the road tonight because Kyrie still can't play at home. The Bulls and the Heat in Miami, top 2 teams in the East right now, record-wise, separated by a game. Heat at 40-21, Bulls at 39-22. And the Heat so far 2-0 against Chicago, won by 3 at the United Center in November, won by 26 in December. Bulls had their 6-game winning streak snapped by Memphis back on Saturday, 116-110. The Heat, they are on fire. They have won 8 of 9. They didn't cover against San Antonio the other night, laying 13, but they scored 133 in that game. But the Heat here are 4.5-point favorite over the Bulls. We haven't seen Chicago as that much of an underdog recently. The Spurs and the Grizzlies, they meet up in Memphis. And so far this season, the Grizzlies have had the Spurs number, 118-105 win at home, then a 118-110 victory in San Antonio last month. I had the over in that game, under 229, finished at 228 because you had 48 in the fourth quarter. And they went the last few minutes barely scoring in that game. So that was a bit of a killer. But total of 237.5 tonight. San Antonio, 5-1 in the over the last 6. Memphis back-to-back unders the last 2 since the All-Star break against Minnesota and Chicago. So 2 lower scoring games for them, 233 and 226, but they're coming off a win at Chicago. And San Antonio, again, a dog tonight. The Hornets and the Bucks, they meet in Milwaukee. This total's dropping a bit. Last time they played in Charlotte, 2 and 3 days. Charlotte beat them twice back in early January. Bucks scored 106 and 99 in those games. High totals, stayed under. This total at 239.5. Charlotte, who destroyed Toronto back on Friday, they lose to Detroit at the buzzer last night, 127-126. Now, Milwaukee's on a 9-1 overrun. They've lost 4 or 5, but the Bucks so far 1-2 this year against the Hornets. Final game we'll look at: Kings and the Thunder in Oklahoma City. Sacramento's beaten Oklahoma City twice this year. Thunder 1-10 their last 11 home games. That's not good. Kings have dropped 4 in a row. That's not good. So we'll see what Oklahoma City does. 4 straight overs for the Thunder after that 129-125 win over the Pacers on Friday. And the Kings here favored on the road once again. All right, Mike, thanks to Dave Sharapan for joining us on today's edition of the Daily Insider. Coming up tomorrow, Stephanie Odie will be back with us, and we'll talk college basketball and NBA with Stephanie. So looking forward to that. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Vegas Insider. We would greatly appreciate it. I am Kevin Rogers. Thanks a lot for watching. And as always, best of luck with your bets.